It's quite a big landmark moment, a landmark proposal by the European Commission. We've been waiting for it for a few weeks now. There have been some grumblings and some grumpiness within European circles and European officials about the Inflation Reduction Act, about bigger investment coming from China into their green industry, and very much waiting for Europe's response. And this is the kind of first breaking of ground when it comes to this proposal. Ursula von der Leyen this morning announcing those broad strokes. As you said, loosening of state aid rules that would allow countries to invest more heavily in their national industries, especially when it comes to green infrastructure. For example, Denmark will be able to spend more money on its wind farm production and other technological advancements. We know that the German energy industry will also possibly benefit from this, so these individual countries will be able to spend more public money on boosting those industries, matching or at least trying to compete with what we've seen in the United States. That's one element of it. And as you said, loosening those rules, Ursula von der Leyen saying let's cut red tape in a press conference earlier today, saying that it needs to be easier for green industry to be able to move forward and approve, and adding that faster approval of green projects, and as well boosting skills, making sure that that workforce is there for that growing industry. Let's make sure there's a workforce to match it as well. But the big one of the big announcements was the repurposing of EU funds. So taking money, for example, from Repower EU, that was the big plan from the European Union announced in March to offset the loss of Russian fossil fuels following the invasion of Ukraine. So that was money that is still around that's going to be reused to boost the green industry. Let's listen to what Ursula von der Leyen had to say earlier today about that repurposing of funds.
For this, we will enable and encourage the member states to use the money from Repower EU, for example, for tax breaks to the net zero industry, because this mirrors then the speed, the predictability and the targeted way forward as we see, for example, from competitors.
So that's really what the European Union wants to do. They want to encourage member states to increase that investment in green technology and green industries. Obviously, the EU itself, unlike China, unlike the US, is not a national government, so it doesn't have as many direct levers to pull to make sure that these things happen. It doesn't have a business department that will directly impact what those decisions look like on the ground. But what it does have is rules and money, and it's going to increase the money for this and loosen the rules for member states to be able to make their own decisions and boost the green economy in Europe.
Alex, not everyone is happy with this rosy green roadmap.
Yeah, rosy green roadmap and not everyone happy. That's to be expected. Obviously, this is a plan that's supposed to work for 27 different member states, and they will all have competing interests, and they all will have different perspectives on this. Now, we saw earlier when this plan was previewed, when we knew that this plan was coming, 7 different countries writing a letter saying, look, let's make sure we don't borrow more money to fund it. We want to be really careful with the amount of money that the European Union is borrowing, or the bloc is borrowing as a whole. Not signatories to that letter were the Dutch, the Belgians and the Germans, obviously key players. The other concern with a lot of these member states is that, well, big economies like France and Germany will have the economic firepower to spend a lot of money boosting their green industries. We know, for example, that the French and the Germans have a lot of investment in renewables, or a lot of investment, certainly for the French, in nuclear, and so they'll have a lot more firepower than smaller countries, say, like Malta or Cyprus, or some of the smaller countries in Eastern Europe. And there's a real desire from those countries to say, well, look, let's make sure we don't get priced out of our own European market. And Ursula von der Leyen trying to address those concerns by announcing a European sovereignty fund, which will kind of balance out that economic imbalance. But that will take a little bit of time, and so obviously we'll see negotiations between member states and the European Commission coming up in the next few weeks. We've got a European Council in just over 10 days, and that will be a real key moment to see how the heads of state resolve this. Now, hopefully the European Commission is hopeful for a quick resolution, but there are competing interests, and we'll have to see how those negotiations go moving forward.